guys, Dan here. I'm trying out a couple new things with this video. I'm upping my video editing skills, so I'm doing this intro, which I'm going to try to do at the beginning of all my videos from now on. And I'm also trying my first ever drawing tutorial. Today I'm drawing Death from the anime Soul Eater, and I figured he's a really easy character, so he should be a good first try at a tutorial. For my materials, I like to use this Strathmore Bristol paper. The paper's really smooth, so it's good with the alcohol markers I use. They don't really bleed past the lines too much, and they kind of just stay where you put them, which is really nice. For drawing, I just use any mechanical pencil that I found around the house, as well as a ruler for straight lines. Once I'm done drawing it in pencil, I like to ink it with these Prismacolor Premier markers. And they have a really fine tip, so you get those nice clean black lines. And then I go back and erase all the pencil drawing with this kneaded eraser. You can use a regular eraser, but I find the kneaded eraser doesn't fade the black lines too much, and it doesn't leave behind any of those eraser shavings, which is really nice. And then lastly, I color it in with these alcohol markers. These are Prismacolor Premier markers. And the markers I like to use best are these ones with a long brush tip on them. I find they're good for blending the colors together, and they don't really leave those streaky lines too much that I get when I use my smaller chisel tip markers. Actually, one more step, something else new I'm trying today. I'm using a utility knife to cut out my drawing at the end to give it a 3D effect. You can use an X-Acto knife, this is just what I had, but anything with a small blade that's sharp and good for cutting out is good. So I hope you enjoy the tutorial. Let's get started. To start out, just draw a circle in the middle of your paper with 3 spikes coming down for his mask. The center spike can come down straight from the center of the circle, and the 2 side spikes come out at a bit of an angle from the center spike. Come back and touch up your circle afterwards if you need to. Then I drew Death's body. Death has a really easy body, it's just a bunch of straight lines. Just try to make sure you get them at the right angles. Now we're going to draw the frame for this picture. I drew the frame at about 5 inches, but it really just depends on how big you made your starting circle. Just make sure you have the top of Death's hat sticking out of the top, and maybe one of his mask spikes sticking out of the bottom. Next up, we're going to draw his hands on the edges of the frame so they look like they're holding onto the frame, so his fingers will be sticking out. Three circles to finish off the mask for his eyes and nose holes. Draw a couple scratches on his mask. And then some puffy clouds for a really easy background in Death's world. I thought about adding the crosses too, but I figured it's best to keep this drawing simple. Next we're going to ink our drawing. The best thing I can tell you here is to just be confident with your strokes. You just want to do one smooth line for every pencil mark you made. And if you just go for it, you'll get better at this with practice. The circles are a little difficult, just take your time with them and try to keep it as smooth as possible. Use your ruler to get straight lines for the border, and make sure you don't draw over his hands. Now once the markers are dried, give it about a half an hour, you can come through with your kneaded eraser and erase all your pencil lines. And now you're left with just a clean marker drawing. For coloring big open areas like this, the only tricky thing you might run into is where you stop and start. Try to make sure you don't go over the parts that you've already colored. If you do, that part that you went over will have more layers than the other parts and might come up darker. The more layers you put on overall, I find, make it easier to have a nice smooth single color throughout. Add a couple shadows in a light gray. And then color the rest of his outfit black. And that's it for coloring. Now we're just going to go through with our utility knife and cut out our drawing. Once you're done cutting them out, if you see any white edges, you can go over those in a black marker. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you next time.